Welcome back to Tales of Two Bros. I am Angel, and instead of Adan, we have Kimberly.
Hi.
And this is our throwback review of Gun. Dun 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 dun. Spoilers. Top Gun Maverick just came out Memorial Day weekend, and we thought let's catch up on the original that came out in 1986. Right now, streaming until May 31st on Netflix. So if you saw it there, good for you. If not, you missed out. The first time I seen this was in the movie theaters, and I have not seen it in its entirety until 36 years later on Netflix.
I've seen it multiple times, but 20 years probably at last.
Yeah, I saw clips here and there. If it was on HBO or what have you, I would catch it there, but I would never
Mhm.
catch it from beginning all the way to the end. I do remember some, but I don't remember everything. Watching again, I saw some things that really is a different perspective as an adult than say you were younger, kid,
Yeah.
teenager. I mean,
Or
I was in grade school when I.
I was starting high school, freshman.
Oh boy! So seeing it again after so long, what did you think?
It was an interesting concept of the storyline still kind of held together. You see a little, obviously, you saw a little more cheesiness seeing it again, which you didn't notice it back then. But, there were a lot of, like, one-liners, and it brought back a lot of nostalgia, a lot of memories, especially back then when, I mean, Tom Cruise was a heartthrob. Obviously, the storyline kind of holds true. The action wasn't as much as thought it was back then.
Well, for me, like the action back then, I wasn't really impressed
Mm.
because it's just jets flying around,
Yeah,
and it's not like it was,
physical action.
yeah, like hand to hand combat. It was none of that. It was no hand to hand combat. Maybe a punch at all thrown.
I mean, the
It was
most
grabbing, and
physical was the volleyball scene.
in that sense, I didn't really get it. Back then, I didn't really get it. I mean, I understand it was like a macho uh, guy flick. It was a great flick for the girls. Just like you said, Tom Cruise, Val Kilmer. I mean, in regards to that, you have in this movie pretty much an all-star cast of up and comers.
Yeah.
You have the establishment of Tom Cruise. He's already an established actor,
Tim Robbins.
but Tim Robbins a small part, but he was coming up. You have
Mhm.
other actors that escape my thought right now in the sense of up and comers, but they were
Mhm.
pretty much all on that training group of
I'm
Top Gun.
scared.
I'm scared, but he's not up and coming. He was established. Michael
Yeah.
Ironside, those guys were established. And the other gentleman, the commanding officer on the missions on the submarine, or not the aircraft, not the submarine, the aircraft. Again, names are escaping my apologies, they're escaping my mind. But again, the up and comers were all in that Top Gun class. The actor from Roxanne and some other films, Adrian Pascal, his show Heroes that came in and went 2 years ago. Uh, the guy from Walker, Texas Ranger, he's here. He was also in Die Hard. So you have all these guys that you see it again, like, oh my god, like, and you said like Tim Robbins, he's at
Mhm.
the end.
He was in the beginning and the end.
He was in the beginning too.
Yeah, he was with the other guy who died and who basically said that he couldn't continue, dropped
Oh,
out.
got you. Okay, so he would, yes,
He
because he was
was
the
the
partner that was number
yeah.
one until when the guy wigged out, then Maverick and Goose, like Ryan too. Meg Ryan was in here
Oh,
again.
and
Anthony Edwards, but
yeah.
he's been around. He wasn't like up and coming. He did a lot of movies already. He was in Nerds or
Mhm.
Revenge of the Nerds. He was in the other one where
Well, if it
Student
wasn't like
Spy.
up and coming, it kind of revived.
Already an actor. He was already acting. He didn't revive anything.
But yeah, but he wasn't like he was like Cruise, or he wasn't like doing a lot of movies to where he.
He was though, not in the same trajectory as Tom Cruise, right? And Tom Cruise, it was the lead, where Anthony Edwards was more. He did some lead work, but he was also more on the side or partner with him
Mm,
in Revenge of the Nerds and that. The plot, in my opinion, is very basic. Is directed by Tony Scott. Yeah, it's just a male junkie, adrenaline driven, very cliche in a lot of things. Overall, I would say it's not a good movie. The way it's presented and the way it's done and like the music score and like for me, I didn't really feel for Maverick. When I felt more sorry for Goose and his family when he went, but I didn't really feel bad that Maverick just lost his best friend on that training exercise.
mm-hmm.
And I was distracted by all the. I'm just gonna say it right here.
I know you might as well just bring it all out because.
This movie is full of homosexual overtones. Like you can taste it because you see it so much and it's thrown in your face. There's even guys saying, "Oh, I have a hard on," and it's like that because they're about to go on a training sequence or a mission. Very homoerotic. Uh, Guys are sweating left and right just for standing still.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's any scene when any one of them are dry, just sweaty nonstop. And like I said, and then the volleyball scene, guys shirtless, and I was like, well,
Mhm.
of course, who's gonna play volleyball, fully
Well,
clothed, but
sand volleyball too.
right, I understand that, but it was just, I don't know, it just had that.
And the thing about it is that I've noted that what I noticed is back then I would have never thought of that. And I
Mhm.
guess because also because of the age and everything else, we were young, realizing, gender preference and all that kind of stuff wasn't something that was, forefront of my mind, especially watching a movie. So my thing was seeing it from a gaga, googly, teenage girl looking at these guys with muscles and sweaty and all that, thinking, "Oh my gosh, wow, they're hunks." So that's where I was seeing and so the whole gayness never entered my mind until you brought it up and pointing it out. And now when we rewatched it, then yes, I do see the underlying tones of, like you said, like, "Oh, I've got a heart on," the other guy saying me too, and then it's just like,
Well, I mean,
okay. And it's just like then it's piled on top of each other, and
right.
then you're thinking, "Okay, wow."
I mean, when I was younger, I didn't recognize that. I didn't see that. But now as an adult, I look at it and what they're saying and what's going on. I mean, there's a whole couple scenes of them in a towels like as if they're in a bathhouse
Yeah, yeah.
and they're getting up and close.
Well, it's a locker room scene, so yeah,
Right.
they're gonna be there in their
Now, granted,
towels.
wearing this shirt, I mean, much because wearing a Batman shirt,
Yeah,
with
and
the rainbow
and
colors.
schools,
Well, yeah, I know it's probably
the only thing
contradicting.
that it's not showing is sweating and all
Well,
oiled
of
up
course,
and
there's no reason for
everything.
me to be sweating. Like just like them, there was no reason for them to be sweating when they're, getting awards or just chilling, talking to at a bar.
But
Regardless,
AC probably wasn't a big thing back then, I
I
guess.
guess not. I guess nowhere. I mean, it was in the military. I guess they couldn't afford that. They could afford $20 million fighter jets, but they couldn't afford a $10 fan. I mean, don't get me wrong. I am a big supporter of the gay community, so please don't get it twisted.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
just seeing that in your face is like, wow. Maverick and Goose, they got recommended for Top Gun, which is a school where the 1%, the top 1% go and train. And then it's a class, like who is the top dog. And so you have that little high school rivalry with
Well, they're
Maverick.
competing.
Well, yeah, I understand, but it's very
Mhm.
high school.
Yeah.
You have Iceman who thinks he's the best, and you have Maverick who thinks he's the best, and
Have
that back and
somewhat of, yeah,
forth.
the bullying in the sense of like they make comments to each other.
Well, which is understandable because they're trying to get into other person's head, but it didn't feel so moving. It just felt like another high school movie where he's trying to be the best. Like there's like two quarterbacks. right? And he's trying to who's the better quarterback, and one's trying to become top notch. We have Maverick's character or Tom Cruise's character Maverick, where he's driven because he has something to prove, not to himself, but more like of his father's lineage, because his father was a pilot, well known and respected pilot, and so he's trying to live up to that, but also make his own mark.
Well, and he's also the kind of guy that always like presses the limits. He's not one of the guys who will do it by the book kind of thing. Tries to go beyond and he tries to make a point to where it's almost at borderline detriment
It's
to other
risky.
individuals,
It's
the other
risky.
players. Yeah, and so and that's his saying is that he always takes a risk, and he takes it because he thinks that that's gonna give him the advantage.
Before watching it, I was going through my memory and what I remember in a sense of I know that Goose died through a mishap because of the canopy. He crashed into the canopy. But watching it again, you realize obviously it's not Maverick's fault, but Iceman.
Yeah.
Because Iceman was there was the final training where and there were 2 points away. Iceman was just in the lead and Maverick was right behind.
Iceman couldn't get a clear shot. He had to get out of the way so that way Maverick can get a shot because he had a better
Well,
shot.
the thing is that he was too close. Going to use his missiles, so he was going to go to guns, but he was again too close, and it wasn't connected. But he's like wasting time. Give me 30 seconds. All right,
Mhm,
give me 20 more seconds. And in a dogfight, you don't have that much time. But he was just wasting that time just for he can be number one. Where he was complaining that if Maverick was doing something like that, he'll rip him a new one because he was doing there trying to take the spotlight off of Maverick and put on him for he can get the top position. And by doing that, when he didn't have it, because Maverick was a little further behind, had a better position, but Iceman Jet was blocking
mhm.
the kill shot. And then when he took off at the last moment, it called like I won't say a wind tunnel. I'm probably misinterpreting or wrong word, which caused Maverick and Goose to go into a tailspin. He couldn't get control. That's the thing that never got brought up. That is actually Iceman's fault for
Mm.
Goose's death. Maverick gets the blame because he was the pilot, even though it was recorded. I mean, they're talking on the mic, so it should be recorded like what's going on. And every jet has a black box to also record any mechanical areas or the audio that's if it's lost down to the tower.
And also Maverick told Goose, "Watch out for the canopy."
That's the only thing I really saw was like Iceman couldn't take that he was fault for the true death of Goose. Now, if you saw the movie, you know what scene I'm talking about because overacted that scene.
Well, I think that's what kind of plays into the whole cheesiness is that there's a lot of overacting.
Really,
You don't think
Tom Cruise?
yes,
I felt
yes.
more from like Val.
Well, yeah, I mean, he added to it, but come on, Tom Cruise in the bathroom scene right after Goose dies, and he's in the bathroom playing with the water in the sink. Kind of just standing there, just playing with the water. It's just like, yeah, but it's just little things here and there with
Well,
how he.
the shot where after the graduation they had a mission, which was actually a really good scene. I thought that scene was about almost 10 minutes long, where Tom or Maverick throws in the dog tags throws in Goose's dog tags in the ocean. That scene, he brought it up. Tony Scott was not happy. He gave, yes, the captain of the ship check on the spot, $25,000, just to turn around where he can get that shot.
The
Quick
money
fun fact.
shot.
There you go. So I counted 6 scenes, which is just about the flying. And the longest one, like I mentioned earlier, was the last one, which is where they're actually in combat. Because everything else prior to that, except for maybe well, the first action scene was
What?
combat, but they didn't shoot the enemy. They let the enemy know that they're in their fire or in
More
their
of like
crosshairs.
warning.
Yes, and then the enemy flew away. There was really no action until or combat action in the last scene, and like I said, that was about almost just shy of 10 minutes. Overall action, about 23 minutes of action overall. I mean, if you want to count him driving his motorcycle as action, but it's not really. It's just that part. Is there a scene that you liked or like kind of cool?
The most memorable scene that I'll never forget is obviously the volleyball scene because I didn't realize it was the fact that that volleyball scene, there was so much tension between Maverick and Iceman, but
Was
there was always like this back and forth with them. And so what they decided to do is they decided to take a couple matches of volleyball to kind of
but they don't.
set it straight.
But that's the thing about the editing because we don't see that reason. We just see they're doing
Yeah,
something, then it cuts right into volleyball.
yeah, but basically that's the reason for the whole volleyball scene
What?
because there was so much
You mean
competition.
team building?
Yeah, because that
Yeah, but
kind of
that
plays into the new movie also.
no. Well, let's not go into that right now. 'Cause this movie.
Well, I know, but I'm
But
just
no.
trying
But
to.
the thing is like, okay, if you want to go back into Top Gun Maverick, that was for team building. This was not. The volleyball scene was not about team building because it's still
Yeah, but it's still working through those or those four issues because there was always friction.
right. But
So
that volleyball game then what makes it more. If you're competing on trying to be number one on on Top Gun, and then you're trying to get the beat the guys in volleyball. That is
yeah.
still competing. There is no team building. I can see team building if say Goose was teaming up with Iceman and Roxanne was
Well,
with the
I
Maverick.
wasn't initially saying that it was team building. It was more like them working out their differences, but that's
Just
what I read. That was the whole premise of that whole volleyball scene.
the volleyball or the football.
Volleyball.
Okay, go. Well, then it didn't come across. It just felt like it was just
Yeah,
competition over
yeah,
competition over competition.
yeah. I
So,
didn't know that until I read it,
right,
and that
due to editing,
reading it 20 years later or however
due to
long later.
editing, it shows that it failed.
Even though visually it was a great scene because
It was
that,
a fun scene,
yeah.
in that aspect, but again, it's like
It wa
it was just there, like
It was thrown in. It really wasn't. I mean, the storyline really didn't need it,
yeah,
but
that was yes.
it was one of those where it like we said in the beginning, it brought all of the the girls to where they can Google and goggle. It brought it that whole.
It's definitely be considered a throwaway scene. You don't
Yeah.
you can edit that out. For me, the most exciting thing was the last battle because that's where the action was, and you saw that it was very dire. You can feel that there was intensity there. It's not like in schools like that premise. What you can practice until you do. You don't know that it works or not. And it shows, even though that Iceman was the Top Gun, was actually Maverick was the real guy because he was able to do what Iceman couldn't. Iceman, I think, believe got shot. He had to pull out.
Hmm.
Um, he only lost because of what happened to Goose, and then he was having the shell shock. It's another word for pilots. But shell shock, he couldn't his rhythm. He wasn't back to his normal ways. And the thing is, that's the thing is, he like there's rules. He followed the rules until he had to break them. That was his thing.
Well, I think a lot of also too is the fact that his character is very is very arrogant.
I don't think it's arrogance; it's confidence. Where
Well, yeah,
Iceman was
he
more arrogant.
yeah, to him, his confidence, to everyone else, like Iceman thought it was arrogant, and he even was like that, "I can never trust you as my wingman." But
Right.
then once they established their relationship and once, everything happened and it end, Iceman basically took that back and said, You can always be my
Of course,
wingman."
because he saved the day. Africa was that
Yeah,
one
well,
that
he
actually saved.
proved that he can be trusted, that he would never leave a man behind.
Right now, Kelly McGillis was she
Eh,
needed,
as a
but
love interest, every movie, Most
Every
majority
well,
of
every
movies
hero
have
has
a
a
love
love interest,
interest.
right? But to me, it's like one of the biggest problems when we're watching it is that I didn't notice then, and I noticed now, like the music was so damn loud and repetitive. That
Even
Berlin
though a
song,
lot
"Take My
of
Breath Away," they
yeah, but
kept that
they
was their love song. I understand, or the couple song.
but those what make those songs popular at that time.
No, I
You know,
understand that.
Kenny
I
Loggins.
understand that. But the thing is that it was so loud. Like they're talking and the music's playing, so you're trying to hear them talk
Mhm.
because they're overplaying that song. And speaking of Kenny Loggins, he was pretty much the whole soundtrack. But Danger Zone, a great workout song, a great pump you up song, is never used at all at any of the dogfights, any of the training montages, any of when it
Just
counts.
in the beginning.
It just and it's somewhere else and somewhere here and there. But it
Mhm.
was like never in the sense when he's trying to take down another plane or that he's in the hairs and what have you. It's like is it was never. And I was like, what? Then why is this song like so good? Like there's plenty of scenes where it'd been perfect. One of my favorite songs still to this day to work out, to get pumped, what have you. And I mean, they had his other song, Playing with the Boys. See, playing with the boys on the volleyball court. That other song that Kenny Loggins does. Playing with the boys. And then the who's like the commanding officer of the mission or the mission's commanding officer. I'm sorry, I don't know military titles, especially in the Navy, on the aircraft, and he's smoking a cigar. I don't think that was ever allowed. I mean, every time they showed him, pretty much, he was smoking a cigar in his office, in the locker room,
And
in the command room, and I was like, dude, that's. I mean, granted, maybe they did in 1986.
and this is coming from a big
Yeah, but
person.
I would not do that. I would not smoke a freaking cigar in
But
the.
back then, maybe that was the thing.
I don't know. And again, another gay overtone, a guy having a big black stick in his mouth.
I never thought of it that way.
I mean, come on. And then he's shaved, bald headed, in tight quarters. He was never outside. He was always inside something. Their ship. He was in a ship or the office. See where the gay overtones are happening here. I don't know if it was purpose or subconscious that Tony Scott did it like that, but hey, overall, in my opinion, this movie was very, very, very basic, and it goes quick. That's what saved it. It goes quick. It just goes boom, the boom.
But
You
I
meet.
think at that time, that's what kind of made it such a hit.
I think more so, it's not that it's basic. I think it's because of the music. You have the theme song for Top Gun. The musical score is iconic. It's very good. I remember playing the Top Gun video game, and when you hear that instrumental go on, you get a little anxious, you get a little amped, you get a little excited. You think you're Maverick, or maybe you think you're Iceman,
Yeah, I mean, when you hear that song,
or
that's the first
Merlin.
thing you always think of is
Right.
the movie.
And then you have Danger Zone, then you have Berlin's Take Your Breath Away. All those songs that became hits. That's what happened because that was around the time where some movies and music or musical artists came together, which
Soundtrack was bigger than the movie, and they still hold true to today.
but now is in a sense it's gotten more back into composer, musical score than say like it's songs. In the 80s that was very popular, and the 90s too. Became very popular, and I remember buying the soundtrack. I will buy the soundtrack instead of the movie because I like the soundtrack more than I like the
Yeah,
movie.
the movie you were like,
Seeing it again after for me is actually 36 years since I seen it in its entirety. You said it was the last about 20 years or so. Watching it again after seeing it as a little older, after seeing it from what I've put in your head that you never saw before. Is this a worth the watch, the money, or a waste of time?
I'd say it's worth the watch. I mean, it is a good storyline in a certain respect. You have Maverick trying to prove something to them, trying, I mean, we all have somewhat our demons that we have to deal with. That's kind of what he's been trying to, you know, become, the Top Gun, but I wouldn't buy it or see.
Fair enough. For me, it's worth the watch. Sure, why not? I mean, I watched before. Would I take some things out? Definitely. Would I be able to do something different? Oh yeah. Kelly McGillis, it was there again simply for tongue in cheek. Or that's the volleyball game, tongue in cheek for that one. Her, they guess they needed they felt that he needed a love interest. I'm glad I was able to see it again, able to point out some things or get reminded of things I forgot in preparation for Top Gun Maverick. So there you go. So it's worth the watch,
Watch,
but not worth
not the money.
not the money. All right, that's our throwback review of Top Gun. Until next time, will be the next time. I am Angel.